Today's episode has been brought to you by Archon Mounts for those of you that require sturdy, robust, reliable mounting solutions for your cell phones, iPads, electronic devices. Maybe you are a professional photographer. Maybe you do YouTube videos. Go to archon.com, use my promo code Hawaii. You get 20% off the entire order. For those of you that are gig workers, you do Uber, DoorDash, you do, what's not Road Rash? What's the pink one, Lyft. Maybe you're one of those superheroes that delivers people or you deliver products or food. You need to get yourself a sturdy, robust, reliable tripod from Archon Mounts. Go to archon.com. Be sure to use my promo code Hawaii, 20% off the entire order. Archon.com, keeping your devices within reach. Well, here we are, family. I've been trying to get this guest for such a long time. She's been a teacher for 43 years officially on the books. Now, she's also a parent, and she's also been teaching her kids. So technically, she's been teaching well over 50 plus years, and she's still teaching because she's got grandchildren as well. Now, she's taught in states in North Carolina, also, I think in South Carolina, also in Hawaii, and also her final teaching location in her career was in Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just pleased to spend some time with a very dear family member of mine, Linda Gentry. She is, such a special one. I'll tell you this. She's so hard to get. And you'll hear in our stories as we talk how hard she was to get. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my auntie, Linda Gentry, educator for 43 years. We'll be back in 40 seconds.
About 10, 11 years.
We gotta tell people how that exchange in 92 happened. You guys leaving and us coming.
I know. That's really strange, isn't it? I mean, not strange. It had to have been of the Lord.
Had to have been.
Yeah.
Because we would never have come in the middle of winter. I was graduating. Is it Uncle Terry's fault? Was it his fault?
Well, actually, they wanted him to come and transfer and before Thanksgiving. And then he asked for an extension, so which was January. So that's when he was working for the post office. Well, he retired. So that's why we moved. But I think it was just time for us to move back. Well, not back, because we never lived in Washington, but just, I don't know, not really sure. I think we were just trying to get back to Florida, where, Uncle Terry's from.
Palm Beach, West Palm Beach.
West Palm Beach.
Yeah. It's Kailua, basically, but Kailua on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
I remember the sand.
Yeah.
I remember we ate lunch on the beach-ish, or the house, the picnic table.
Oh, that was probably their house. That was his parents' house. Yeah.
I remember the
West Palm
sand.
Beach, yeah.
Now, did you teach immediately coming into Washington from?
So when we came, Carrie and John, it was like a semester. So they did have to finish some schoolwork at Redemption. So, and the new semester started in February, ending of January, February. So we found them a school to go to, which is Seattle Christian School,
Which is the one
where I taught after that. But for that semester, they were there and I wasn't teaching, looking for a job. Went to many places, but somehow the Lord just provided. We actually, when we got to that school, it was actually, we were looking for another school, and we kind of like stumbled into this school. It was a very old building. We said, oh, let's go try that school. And we took a tour, and it was just such a blessing. It was the older school. We moved since then, or in 1997. This is 1993 when we were there. Very old building. And so but we loved it because the people were just so warm and friendly, and we felt like it was like a family place. So
It's a pretty serious stumble because you were there for
yeah,
what?
oh, it was a Lord. It wasn't really us, but we were looking for another school because I knew the people. One of the students I'd gone to school with in our graduate program, Dana, I was looking for their school, and same town, but a different area. But the Lord provided that school.
I don't think I've ever asked you this question, but why teach? Of all things you could have done, why teach? Why a teacher? I don't think I've ever asked you that, right? I don't think I have.
I don't know.
I never asked you why.
Don't remember. Well, so I when I was 12, we moved to the Big Island. Grandma married our stepdad, and we ended up going to this school, Honokaa High School. Well, I went to Waimea Intermediate first because I was 12, and then went to Honokaa High School. And kind of a weird system they had back then. Really, it would not fly today. They put you in A, B, C, or D class. Literally, that's your level.
What level though? Like class?
So yeah, so in my class, and I don't know if I should be saying this like this because it might stir up some very negative feelings. So I was in the A class. So anybody who was in the A class were bound for college. Anybody who was in the B class were going to like a business college. And then C and D, I'm not sure what they thought about them, but so I wanted to take business college, business courses, but I couldn't because I was in the A class. I had to take more college prep. That is the way that school was
This is the
back
first time
then.
I'm hearing this actually.
So that's the way it was. And you were ranked. I know my rank. I'm not going to say it now, but I know my rank at that school. That's the way we were. Um,
Is that socialistic sound? Is that
I don't know, but that would not fly today.
no?
That would not fly.
But
Anyway, at that school, a principal. Well, I think I already had some very strong feelings and raised a Christian, very strict parents. But at that school, I saw things that, this is a public school, I saw things that should not have been happening, especially um, just the physical relationships that people were having. And so I made an appointment with the principal and I talked to him because I was concerned about what I saw as a student. And I remember sitting across of him in his office, and I said, "Are you aware that this is happening during lunchtime under the bleachers?" And he smiled at me. And I said it again. "Are you aware?" And I said it very respectfully. "Are you aware of what's going on under those bleachers during lunchtime?" And
oh, these are students.
these are
Oh,
students.
okay, but just
I'm
students.
sorry, these are students. I didn't
Oh,
make
okay,
that
I was
clear.
like, wait,
No, this is,
these
I'm
teachers.
sorry. It's about
Well,
students.
yeah, okay.
I'm a student, so I was seeing it as from a student perspective. So he just smiled at me. I don't recall exactly what he said back to me, but I was not satisfied with his answer. It was like, what can I do? Or the impression was, yeah, I know that. And I left that office thinking, I want I don't want to be at a school like this. Um, I want to make a difference. I teachers, and I had great teachers. Um, they should not have to see or allow things like this to happen. And so that's when I decided I wanted to become a teacher because I didn't think people should be allowed to do things like that. Students. And I don't know if they ever made changes back then. I don't know if it made a difference for me to go and see the principal, but it made a difference in me. I knew then that I was going to become a teacher.
And how old? How old were you?
I was probably 17. I know I wasn't a senior. I remember I something made me go and talk to the principal. Never done that before, but something in me, like, I need to tell him this is what's happening in our school. And I didn't get anything out of it except walking away saying, I want to become a teacher. Now, I had no idea, living on the Big Island, in that area we lived in, that there was such thing as Christian schools. I knew that there were the parochial schools, the Catholic schools, but I had no idea there were Christian schools. All I knew was public school because that's what I went to. So, I went away thinking, I want to make a difference. This should not be happening. And, through that, went to college, went to a Christian school, and then the reason why I went to a Christian school, being raised in a Christian home, I really wanted to know what is truth.
Mm.
Really, what is truth? And I know there's the Bible. What is truth? So I wanted to go to a Christian college that would teach me the truth. And between that and wanting to be a teacher, that's how I became a teacher.
How many Christian colleges did you go to?
1, 2, 3, maybe 4.
You went
3.
to the same one mom and dad went, right? That's
Yes.
one of them. But
and then I went to another one, 3. So I went to 3 different schools, one in South Carolina, 2 in North Carolina, and then when I worked my master's, that was in Oklahoma. So, and they were all Christian schools.
how many
So that
masters
was-
do you have?
I only have.
That's all. I'm
Yes.
just kidding. We have a lot of high standards in one side of our family, anyways. But
No,
so, what is your master's in
it's master's just education.
education? Well, I mean, I think people don't value that even today. Getting an education, and we can cover that in a minute. But so you went in the south. So from Hawaii to the south,
Yes.
that's God. I'm guessing that's God to pull you all the way to that side of the nation.
Yeah, I would, I'd look back. Of course it is. Yeah.
Because back then, Holmes was faith. What do you call that?
Faith-based.
Faith based, even in a financial,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And did you meet Uncle Terry already at that point?
No. At that,
So you lived in the
I
dorms.
had
You
a-
lived in the dorms.
yes.
Okay.
But I think you make a commitment of how much you're going to
Yeah.
pay. So we had a trust fund for me. My dad left me a trust fund, so that was good. So that helped.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. I was the only one that had
Now I understand you guys have the big dollars.
one.
Wow. Okay, so the trust fund that helped you with your education.
Yeah.
And so I know Holmes, when we went in 85, it was still 6-inch rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I did not like about that school, there were a couple of things. I was treated like a foreigner.
Well, you're from a different country.
I'd be walking down the street and they would say, "Hola." I said, "Hola." And then others would say, "You speak English really well. Thank you."
Well, see, even us, like they would say, "Oh, what? Do you guys have McDonald's?" Yes, we have McDonald's. And do you have a house? Yeah, we have a house. It's made out of wood, and they thought
Wow, they said that to you? back then?
in '85 they still had
Wow.
that. They still had that. I don't know if they were serious or just I don't know if they were naive. I really
Yeah.
don't know. I don't think they were being mean because these are church people.
Yeah.
But that's in '85.
Mine was in the 70s. Yeah.
So,
The people were wonderful, though, but they,
well, what
Not-
did you look like back then? Because
what did I look
yeah,
like?
yeah. well, so people that don't know,
A lot younger than what I looked
I
like.
even don't know what is your. So I obviously we have the Hawaiian, but what is your?
I think they thought I was Mexican, which is nothing wrong with that. But they tried to speak to me in Spanish, and I could say "Hola." I knew a little bit, but so which was okay. But I think I was more offended because they didn't recognize me as someone from Hawaii.
Well,
They didn't know. They wonderful people. They had no idea.
Well, especially we're in that area. I know when we lived there, it was like the white. We lived in a housing. You've been to. I mean, I think you've been to the house. Did you ever go to the
I
house?
don't know.
But so in the family housing, and literally one street over in the bridge, that's where the black neighborhood, white neighborhood, black neighborhood. That's all they knew. So when we come in, they're like, you must be Mexicans." So no,
Yeah.
we're not. And then they say, "You must be Japanese." No, I'm not Japanese. So they didn't really, even then, they didn't understand what a Pacific Islander or Hawaiian would look like. So I liked it personally. I was a kid, right? So I liked it because I was the star of the show. Like people, wow, who's this new kid? And so what would you say you look like now that you're older? Like for me, I probably did look Mexican maybe to them, but what is your ethnicity? How about that? For like you're Hawaiian,
Hawaiian. Let's
Chinese?
see. I would say I'm Japanese, Chinese, Hawaiian. I used to always say Hawaiian, Chinese,
I still say that.
Japanese, but since I had that DNA thing
You
done,
changed it.
I have no. I have more Chinese and Japanese,
So do you lead in with
and
Chinese
then
now?
less Hawaiian. So that's why I say I try, but I always say Hawaiian, Chinese, Japanese because that's the way you say it in Hawaii. But I have
Why is that?
more Chinese and Japanese and less of the Hawaiian since I had that DNA done ancestry.com.
See, I told always
Mm-hmm.
say Hawaiian, Chinese, Filipino, maybe because I identify with a Hawaiian
Mm-hmm.
more than the others, even though that's the least that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe I feel like the Hawaiian part of me or the Hawaii part is not a dying breed, but it's a very small percentage
Yeah.
of the ethnicities out there. It really is. Well, we're finding out now there's actually so there's a term. What is it called? Oceania. Have you ever used that term or heard of that
No,
term?
I've heard it. Yeah.
Oceania or Pacificans. I
Hmm.
guess they're trying to create a new nation of peoples,
Hmm.
combine all the Hawaiians, Samoans, Tongans, Micronesian, make them all into one.
Oh.
I don't know what the thought process, but
Hmm.
it creates probably the largest group of people in the world if you
Really?
combine them all.
Hmm.
Not in numbers, but I think in
Oh.
just sheer coverage of the earth.
Okay.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But the Hawaiian part, I understand. I identify with the Hawaiian. I don't know why that is, but
Well,
well, yeah, that's
I
what.
never really. I always said Hawaiian, Chinese, Japanese, and I thought it, and English, but because living here because I like for people to know that I'm from Hawaii. So that's why I always say Hawaiian, Chinese, Japanese. But I'm very proud of all my ethnicity,
Oh, me too.
Chinese and Japanese. So,
I just wish I was more Chinese with my money. I'd be a lot better
yeah.
off. Be a lot better off.
I actually wish I could speak Cantonese, Cantonese like Popo. I wish I could speak Hawaiian. It's really sad that we are not. I think everybody should be bilingual. And I wish I could have been. And you know,
Are you gonna learn now that you have more time?
I've tried. I try to get on that Hawaiian, what's it called? And I don't last very long. That app. You go on it and you learn simple Hawaiian words. Everybody gets on that
You
free
don't
app.
ever hold yourself to a higher standard because you're a teacher, or
No,
no?
not when it comes to speaking.
Because I have Mango Languages, which is $2 a month, and I get on my phone. But even that's hard. Yeah, I agree. I'll look at it, and you have to speak into it.
Oh,
So it gives you the word. You gotta speak or the phrases, and you speak it into your phone, and it grades you on how you enunciate.
oh wow.
It's kind of hard. It's frustrating because if you don't do it right,
Yeah,
and then even M said that's even that's not accurate. But to me, it's better than nothing. I
yeah,
think, but maybe
yeah.
not. I don't know, but
Well, that I don't know the name of that app now. I could probably just look at my phone, but I did it for a while. I was being very good about it. You had to do it every day, and you repeat the words. Yeah, and they do tell you to repeat it, but they didn't grade you on the way you pronounced
okay. Let's go to the so in your 43 years when you retired, how many subjects did you teach, or did you teach all education levels? What did you teach?
Well, so let's see. When I first started teaching, I was actually in North Carolina then, and I taught at a Baptist school. Oh, I'm trying to remember. Goldsboro Christian Academy.
Greensboro or
Goldsboro.
Goldsboro?
Yes.
I've heard of Goldsboro.
And I loved it. Um, but the only opening they had at the time was for a second grade teacher. It was very interesting. And the culture from Hawaii to there was very different, and I loved it both. Um, so I taught second grade. I think I lasted 2 years teaching second grade. That's not my elementary is not my thing. So I did that, and when you teach elementary, you teach all the subjects, which was fine. Second grade, and then quit teaching for a little bit because then we had our kids. Then we moved to Hawaii. But actually, is that all I taught there?
Second
Just two
grade.
years. Yeah, it was just 2 years because then we moved back to Hawaii.
Second grade, they're still learning how to use the bathroom, right?
Yeah, no, they could use the rest of their own. What I remember
Some of
about
them, not
second
all of them.
grade, they like to swallow coins.
Okay, yeah.
I that would scare me. They would just put coins in them. What are they doing with coins in their hands? I have no idea. But they would swallow nickels. They would swallow. Oh.
They must have had nickel deficiencies or something.
But I did have a seventh grader to swallow a quarter once,
That was probably a dare.
and maybe it was right at the bell was ringing. So I got behind her and did that Heimlich maneuver. She almost fell on me. She's taller than me, and when I was trying to do it, then it was too late. She swallowed it. It was lodged in her throat for a little bit, and
They
then.
must have thought this short Mexican teacher's gonna get killed by this.
But that was not in Hawaii or South. It was here in Washington.
Oh, that was in Washington.
So I taught second grade, and then when I went to Hawaii, went to mission. I mean, Redemption Academy. Taught third and fourth grade combination because that's what they had. And then I went up to seventh grade. So elementary you teach everything. And I went up to seventh grade. I think I taught. So you're asking me things I'd have to remember. I taught. I may have just taught science after that. I love teaching science.
What is it about science that you like?
Well, first of all, well, this is Redemption is a Christian school, so we had the Abeka,
That's the
curriculum.
Florida company.
Yeah, and so everything you teach is from the perspective Christian perspective. So I love teaching science even that way. And I've always, as a person, liked to know how things work, why they work that way. So that curiosity, so that's science, right? You learn how things happen, or why they happen, and and I think that's why I was so engaged with science and love teaching that to the kids. But I think the best thing I love of teaching science, which I taught through I retired, is the first 3 weeks of school, and this is at Seattle Christian way I taught. I taught middle school science. The first 3 weeks, we only talked about creation. And I had a mural across the top of my wall, right below the ceiling, of every day what happened. And I love teaching about creation. And I felt like I could not teach science unless I taught creation first, because that's how everything began. And that's why the world is the way it is today. And just so much, all the answers are there. And, it's, I just love teaching it. And I also made the kids memorize. I could do it back then. They had to memorize uh, the entire first chapter of Genesis and parts of the second chapter because it talked about creation. And I really enjoyed that. They never had a chance to say whether they wanted to memorize it or not. They just had to. That was part of our curriculum.
So, how many days was the Earth created in?
6 days.
And with their chronological, like hour, 24-hour days, you think?
Yes, absolutely. I
Have
believe
you
that.
ever heard the term, I'm going to brain fart while I'm trying to figure this out, the recreation? You ever heard of that terminology? The Not recreation, but I'll probably have to come back to this. But it was where the earth was already formed. I'll go fact check myself on this. If you
Well,
ever heard,
there was a second creation. There was a gap.
like a loose interpretation, or something to that effect, where the earth was, I'm gonna butcher myself in this, but basically it was there, but then this the creation that we know, that there was a structuring of it done in 6 days, right?
Hmm.
I'll have to come back to that. I know I read it somewhere where people believe this, that the creation of the earth and man was something that God, it was like not recreate. I guess it's something to that effect, but
Well, there is that theory where they said there was a previous creation,
mhm.
and that this, what Genesis is saying is now the second one. I don't believe that. I take the
I don't
Bible
believe that either.
literally. I
Yeah,
take the Bible literally.
yeah.
So, but I've heard that there's that.
So where does Satan fall in the area of creation? Where
What's
did
that?
Satan? Where did he come in? Do you teach in the
No, I
time of?
never got to that. We never got
That's
to
probably more
say. Yeah,
theology than
yeah,
science.
probably. Yeah.
Well, Uncle Adrian taught, he she was in M was in the class with me, but he talked about, he wasn't saying it was definitive scripture based, because he said, I just want to throw this out there. Talked about when the scripture says, and I saw Lucifer fall from heaven like lightning. Basically, God body slamming him to
Mm-hmm.
casting him out of heaven. There's some people that make, what's the word, interpretations that where he landed was somewhere in the Middle East.
Oh, I never heard
Uncle
that
Adrian
before.
made a reference to, he didn't say
Really?
that's what it is specifically, but he said that it is an interesting thought, if that is true, that just so happens to be the place where he got body slammed onto the earth, where it says, I saw like fall like lightning from heaven.
What's the significance of that?
I don't know what the significance is, but when I looked into it, I was like, why is that place so desolate and dry, and there's always wars, and we know
Okay.
scripture, right? We know scripture that,
Yeah.
but it is an interesting take on that. That's probably not science, but more theology. Okay, so the earth was created in 6 days. You teach your kids that before anything
And
else.
I say it's 24 hours.
24
Yes.
hours
And
in
I
a day.
say because, and there was evening and there was morning the first day. And there was evening, there was morning the second day. So I take it literally. And I don't go through all the literal, like the words, the Hebrew words that were
Right.
used, because I'm teaching seventh graders. But I did say if you were to go and study that, you would know. And I did make it clear because I knew that some of them came from homes that didn't believe in
Right.
literal, that they were believing that they're more theistic evolutionists who believe God used evolution. So I would say, I know some of you, you know, this is what you believe. And, but I said, I just want you to know. And whenever I met with parents, I told them, I want you to know I'm a literal creationist. So I want you to know when I'm teaching it in school, this is the perspective I teach it from.
And that's based, if you really dig into it, that's based on actual Hebrew and how they wrote it,
Yes,
right?
right. Yeah.
So the theistic evolutionists, would you say that they look at things like, for example, like carbon dating, or they look
Yeah.
at, is that what they base some of their
Yeah.
mindsets on,
But
things
I
like?
don't know. I always think, I kind of laugh and, I say, it's like when you want to make chocolate chip cookies, and you say, "Oh, mom, I want to make chocolate chip cookies." Okay, let's go to the grocery store. So you buy all the ingredients and you bring it home and you make it. So I tell the kids, theistic evolution is like God created all the ingredients and then he let it take care of itself and it made itself. I said, but no, that's not what God's word said.
Mm-hmm.
He said, let there be light. And there was light. And so, I say it was the spoken word. Jesus was there. He was a spoken word. The
Hmm.
Trinity was there.
Let us.
Yeah.
Genesis 1:3. Let us.
So, but
Is
I
one.
liked starting at the beginning that everything started in darkness. It wasn't light, it was darkness. It was God bringing the light.
Mm.
And our rooms aren't that dark, but I always like to turn the lights off, and say, can you imagine pure darkness? But is there really, it's hard to have pure darkness because there's always some
There's something.
little light, you know? So I always enjoyed teaching that. 3 weeks of that. And I hope and pray, if anything, kids would ever remember my students, it was that you know, God created everything. Science would not be what it is today, and I'm not a real scientist, and I don't know what's going on in the scientific world today or in the medical field, but science would not be in existence today had it not been for God who created. He is a true scientist. Yes.
How if you look at the Grand Canyon, or how do you explain something that, and for the record, I don't believe it, but how do you explain for people that say, oh, this is 1 million or two,
I know it's kind of funny.
right? Like, how do you explain if that's true on what they observe, the dating, and it shows that it's this old? I have my answer, but how do you explain that to a child that you're teaching that the the Bible that I teach, that we are learning in science, this is an idea or general broad range of what how old the Earth is, but their science says that these rocks or this Earth is 3 million whatever.
Yeah.
I don't how do you navigate kids around that, because that's kind of a evolutionist
Oh, yeah.
mindset, right?
Yeah. No, we didn't get into that as much, but if we were to explain this, this is an example, and I think I learned this from one of my reading, that when you see a candle that has been lit, and then you put out the flame, and there's that burnt wick there, that was a candle, that was a wick, but you have no idea how tall that candle was to start with, unless of course it has a brand name on it, and it has how tall it was to start with, but you have no idea how tall that was or how much of the wick there was there. All you see is what's there. And so, I tell the kids when we say this, even doing all that dating, it's still based on some kind of assumption, and
Nobody was
so,
there,
yeah, that's what I
so
mean.
that's how
Nobody
they,
was there.
so
Nobody was there. So it is an assumption. And I don't know if you ever heard of Ken Ham. Loved him. I
mm-mm.
used a lot of his work. He's the one that has that model arc in Kentucky.
Okay.
They actually have a live.
Yeah, Jasmine went there. She went.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
went and seen it.
So anyway, he would always say, "Were you there?" It was, "Were you there?" Nobody was there except God. So, but
Well, so there's people that I used to counsel in a drug rehab, where people that are lifetime alcoholics or smokers. No offense, to anybody that's what you do, but like, if you people that I counseled, that one guy, he drank for like 47 years of his life, gave it up. He was in his 50s, but he looked like he was in his 70s
mm,
because of what it did to his body. Same thing with smokers, and they look a lot more beat up. And I came to you guys' driveway today. I said, "Wow, their driveway is beautiful. All the flowers."
Uncle Terry.
Yeah, Uncle Terry, right? But then I remember that there was this landscaper that I met. He had this rubber stamp. He would pour concrete for his clients, and he'd get this rubber stamp and he
Oh,
stamped the concrete. And what it did was, even though the concrete was brand new, the stamp made it appear as if it was an old rock formation.
mm.
He stamped it. And of course, he finished it, put some whatever he did. And I'm thinking, who's to say that God wouldn't do that to a rock?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Who am I to say that God wouldn't time date, or what
Yeah,
did carbon date a
yeah,
rock?
yeah,
He can do whatever he wants.
yeah.
But I said, I don't. I'm not a science guy, so I don't know how you would teach a child or debate somebody about that, right? I just know, like you said, I wasn't there, but I would like to believe that, like the Grand Canyon or all these things that we see that are quote unquote old. Well, if God wants to make it old, He can make it old. It's the same thing with cookies.
Yeah.
I can make my cookies look rotten if I want. you
Well, a
know.
lot of the also, and I didn't do any of this on my own in research, but reading from like Institute for Creation Research and Ken Ham, Answers in Genesis, they say, that's the result of the flood.
Right, I've heard that,
Yeah.
especially with the Grand Canyon with the
Right. So,
layers.
all of that's the result of a flood. So all the terrain that we have now, is a lot of it's from the natural
And
terrain that
even
we
the
have.
weird crustaceans in the Midwest where there's no
Yes.
ocean,
Yeah.
things like that.
So, and that to me is a testimony of God. I look at the world kind of like our house. This is our house. And when you walk out in the yard, this is my yard. This whole world is God's yard. That's the way I see the world. It's God's creation, it's His world. Even if we've done something, when I say we, man, have done things to the earth that shouldn't be, the destruction or just all the buildings that we have on it, it's still God's. So look at it. This is His backyard. We have our house and we're blessed with it. Then you go out. Wow, I mean, the house is His too. But I just like to think of the world as being His backyard. We get to enjoy it. We should take care of it. I don't think I do enough, but
Do you think the Earth is getting worse or better, coming from a science perspective?
uh, I don't know if it's getting worse or better. Man has done their share of thinking we need to live somewhere. So we have taken away a lot, which would be natural habitat for the wild animals.
Hmm.
And we are offended and we're afraid when the coyotes come in our backyards or whatever. But it really was theirs to start with. So have we?
Do you guys have
It's kind
coyotes
of
here, by the way?
they do have a. We haven't had it in our yard
Because we've
because it's
seen one on
fenced
the
in.
way here.
Oh yeah,
In Oregon, not in
yeah.
Washington.
People will say they've seen the coyotes around here. Um, so I would say there's so much of the world that's still what God had intended, and I'd say the more places that we inhabit, the more populated areas,
Yeah,
it's probably not what God would have intended for us. A long time ago, heard George Koso,
yeah.
Fiji, would say he lives in a cement jungle. Living in a place like in a populated or very all the skyscrapers, all the buildings. So it's kind of hard to say. I think we have to live somewhere.
I asked a question because in India, I was watching this documentary where the Ganges is the Ganges River.
Yeah.
They take a shower in it. They wash their
Mm.
clothes in it. They make sacrifices. They dump sewage in it,
Ugh.
trash,
Yeah.
and they don't care. It just goes out to the ocean. And I remember watching a documentary, and one of the guys said, "It doesn't matter. It goes to the ocean. The ocean washes it all clean from us." But I'm thinking, well, the trash is going somewhere. But then he kind of made sense where we're all on this planet. This is probably a really crude way to look at it, but if we are destroying the Earth, well, what are we destroying it with? We're destroying it with Earth. Because and I know it's a silly way to make an argument, but if we're making oil or plastics, where does the plastic come from? It comes from oil.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I understand there are some things that we finagle with that would not. What do you call that? What do you call that? Breakdown, biodegrade.
Yes.
Right? So I understand that. But I am a firm believer that there is a time coming where we're going to manage things so poorly. I don't know how that falls into scripture, but from a science perspective, I don't know how to answer that because you destroy one thing, but yet it benefits another.
Yeah.
But I do know we're called to steward. That I know.
Mm-hmm.
Steward well. And I don't know if we can probably do better.
I'm sure we could.
Because we just started gardening and composting and doing all
Well,
those
that's to
things.
be self-sufficient too, right?
Yeah.
But I would tell students, for plastic containers, I would show it to them. Most people just toss it, recycle it, and you've done your duty. I said, no, we need to use it at least twice, two more times. Find use for it, and then recycle it.
Even with Ziplocs, recent finding.
Oh well,
Did you hear about that?
no.
So I think it's Ziploc. I don't know if it's a court case or they got sued. Somebody exposed one of the companies is Ziploc for. I'm gonna misquote this, so probably, but you guys can fact check. But there's studies and reports that they're making people really sick with their plastic products.
Oh
So for whatever
well,
reason, I don't know if that's true, but
yeah.
anyways,
Oh
but
yeah, like you shouldn't microwave in plastic because of the leaking chemicals.
we just microwave our plastic to eat our Puerto Rican food on the way. Yeah.
Well, some are okay.
Some says
Yeah, they're meant to be for microwavable. I don't think plastic
yeah, it's got that
Ziploc bags aren't
it's got that
BPA free or
yeah,
something.
BPA
But
free.
so but I usually don't.
So you don't microwave Ziploc bags.
No.
You know your sister, my mom used to put rice into bags because she didn't want to
Tends
waste
to-
it, put it in the freezer and she would tell us, "Oh, just microwave it for a minute and you have hot rice."
Oh, in the Ziploc
Oh, it's a
bag?
great idea, but now that I watched
Oh,
the Ziploc thing, I'm like, I
yeah.
don't think we should have
Well,
done
you
that.
can just take it out and put it in a glass bowl.
No, but see, it steams in the Ziploc bag.
Oh,
It's perfect
okay.
white
Yeah.
rice. Good idea. That was okay. So getting back to the teacher, so 43 years, science is your thing. Did you ever have a calling for any other subjects besides science? Do you think, or is it just science or something that you landed on?
I just, yeah, love science. It's a lot of work. When you do labs, labs are supposed to be
Oh
demonstrations of
wait,
what their application. It's a ton of work. Um,
explain the work part.
First of all, well, the preparation
Okay.
for it, getting all your supplies. And when you teach at a school where you have to improvise, which you don't get exact, supplies that your curriculum tells you to have, so you improvise, and so it's a lot of work. And getting it ready, it takes you a long time to get it ready, and then you tell the students to start, and in 10 minutes, what happened? It, it's either destroyed or they didn't follow, and but it's lots of fun.
I'll
So
share a
but
story with you. You have you heard of my sulfuric acid stories?
no.
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 Okay, so I'm gonna call, and this is gonna go on Facebook eventually if it goes good. But Myrna Turner, thank you for suspending me.
The
Heath
teacher.
Hester, yeah, she was a principal. Heath Hester, thank you for being my partner in crime, and he threw me under the bus. So Heath Hester, I'm calling you out. But we had study hall, so we had special privileges at Washington Avenue Christian School, and so me and Heath had study hall in the lab. The science
Oh.
teacher, Elizabeth Tripp, rest in peace. She was an old lady. She gave us the keys to go unlock her lab, and we did our study hall in her lab. I killed somebody's goldfish because they had the goldfish as a terrarium. You have the land. It's like you create your
Yeah.
own earth.
Yeah.
The plastic 2 liter bottle.
Oh,
And they had
yes.
goldfish in the bottom,
Oh,
and they had a little like cloud. It's like a cloud system, I guess you would say. It creates moisture.
yeah.
And then I took the goldfish out and I killed him.
How
Stuck
did
it.
you kill it?
Well, I stuck it in a beaker, and somebody had a beaker with water, a plug-in with 2 wires, and there's a light bulb. So the
Oh
2 wires,
my.
the science experiment, the science. This is science. I learned all about science. Is that you put the wire in the water and you put the other wire in the water, and it would turn on the light bulb. I figured, well, what would happen if the fish was in the water?
Poor fish.
Yeah, poor fish. So that's one thing. Another one was we had sheep's brains. So we dissected some extra sheep brains. But the one that got me in trouble was the sulfuric acid.
Oh,
So I took some of that sulfuric acid,
yeah.
put it in a locker, and I lit it. and it burned a hole in the locker.
In a locker, like a
A
student
metal,
locker.
yeah, yeah, metal locker.
Wow.
It's all on public record. It's Washington Avenue Christian. Myrna Turner was a principal. She suspended me in the last. It was the last week of school. But it was science. It was
Yeah.
science is a very the sulfuric acid is a very interesting. Doesn't smell good at all.
I think I like teaching science because of the wonder of it all and how kids, would discover. So that was a lot of fun. Actually, for a little bit, we did a curriculum that was from University of Hawaii, and it was called the FAST program, Foundational Approach to Science Teaching. And it was all more agricultural. And so we did a ton of that stuff, and it was a lot of
So
fun.
agriculture based.
Hmm.
I wonder if Uncle Milton was in that.
I don't think he was in that
It
particular
wasn't in that.
program, no. But we learned about, soil and different types of soil, and I don't know what else we did, but a lot of things we watched. They had we called it the EC 28 project. Anybody who's listening who did this with me, in a
What is
way, I think they
EC
hit
28?
it was the ecology.
Oh,
So it was
okay.
an ecology section of it, and so I have to say we did a lot of ecology, and they had to get a plot. I think it was 4 by 4 in their yard. This is students at Seattle Christian, so they had to select. And I think it lasted for a semester because I had them for a year. They had to grid out. I think it's a 4 by 4, and just a natural land. Don't plant. Don't clear it. Just go in your yard and find an area, and you grid it out. And every, I don't know if it was a month, they had to go and measure every plant, and if there were leaves, how many more leaves. And they had to draw it out. So this was like drawings of what was happening. It was called their EC 28 because 28 was a lesson, EC was for ecology. And it was actually fun. The kids, I think they really liked it, but it was very tedious for them to go out. So when there was like a storm or like snow, it would ruin it, destroy some of it, or if there was like too much rain. So they had to, take note of that. It was kind of fun to see that.
We need EC 28. Yeah.
But going back to teaching, I mean, you said, was that my favorite subject? I'm going to say, well, now that I've been retired, subbing, get to go in any class, pick up the teacher's lesson plans and teach it,
Do
or,
you enjoy
do
that?
it.
Do you enjoy doing that?
Yes, I
Okay.
do. But more than that, it's not just following the lesson plan, is really getting into that lesson with the kids. And so, what I love about teaching, or I still do, but even back then, is the relationship with the kids. Now, it's very annoying when you're trying to teach a class and they're not paying attention and they're talking, or you're not getting to the lesson. I say to the students, and I just said it recently, you know, I know and I don't like it when I'm talking at you. I don't like that. And you know when I'm only talking at you. And I said, sometimes maybe I'll admit I do that just because I want to get through the lesson and be done with it. But I'd rather talk to you. I'd rather you listen to me, you respond to what we're saying. That to me is more like teaching. And they would look at me and they knew what I meant by I'm just looking at, talking at you. There's a big difference.
Just the
And
attitude.
well, it's you're not getting any response. They're not listening. They're not engaged. They're in their own little world, and you're talking to yourself basically.
Do
No,
you take
I
that
don't like that.
personally when that happens?
No, no, that's
None at all. You don't.
no. Because if I was a student, I'd probably be doing the same thing.
So do you ever feel
No.
like, man, how can I reach them
Oh,
better?
absolutely. Yeah, I think about it all the time. So, and you've always heard kids, really care when they know how much you care.
Mhm.
And I think all the students care. This class that I'm teaching right now, long term subbing, and Terry, he knows I will tell them. So I grade it, and I try to leave a little note in there with their grade. So when they see their grade, they see a comment. And usually I'll say, oh, I'll I'll be praying for you. I'm sorry to hear that. And this is health. Um, or I'll say, oh, that's interesting. So I always make a comment. So that to me is also, they know that I care about what they're saying to me. It's just not a grade. I'm just correcting, you know, that it matters to me what they're saying. And so I think they feel valued, they feel appreciated. And I want to feel appreciated, and valued too. So I feel like there's a good relationship there. I might be naive in thinking that, but I think that's matters to me the most in all my years of teaching. That there is that relationship and that respect that we have for each other and that care. That to me matters more than the lessons. The lessons matter.
Hmm.
I want them to learn. Um, and mainly, I think I want students to learn because I want them to develop into the people God wants them to be, to get the skills and the tools they need for whatever God's calling them to. I always think, and we probably still think that it's when you graduate and then God's going to call you to something. No, He's already called those students from they're young.
He called you before you graduated.
Yeah, but I mean, He
Right?
even right now, elementary students, your kids, God's already called them, and they're working, and they're moving in that direction. God's already aligning their
That's a
hearts.
lot of pressure on a parent.
Yeah, well, that's their responsibility too, right?
So, in connection, parents to teaching outside of the curriculum and your passion is teaching them, there's actually two parts to this. One is I want to get to the teaching today versus 20 years ago, but do you ever feel like you're, I don't want to structure this wrong. How do I say this? Do you ever feel like you're raising kids as well? Have you ever felt like you ever had that student where you know that something's going on at home and you just know that there's, because one of the things for us is that what, and this is just our personal, the reason why we homeschool is because we want our kids, we want to know what they're learning, but we want to be
Mm-hmm.
involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with Jasmine where she goes to school 6, 7 hours a day. She comes home doing homework, chores, watching TV, having fun. I'm working. By the time I come home, I have 1 hour
Mm-hmm.
to raise my own daughter. I struggled with that. I really did. And it made it worse, of course, with the whole legislative and political things that happened in Hawaii. That was our final button.
Mm-hmm.
But with the amount of time you have with these kids, do you ever feel like, have you ever felt a responsibility not to raise them, but to do more than just teach them the educational part, like life skills or, you know what I'm trying to,
Yeah. Well, maybe that we might be doing a little of that. When I say we, I'm saying all teachers.
right,
Um, I love teaching at Seattle Christian. I'd say, not that it's war, but we're in the trenches and we're in the trenches
right,
together. We have each other's back. And there's not a teacher who doesn't care at that school that in all the years I've taught there, that don't really care. And because we care so much, yes, we do feel part of that and helping out. But for me, as a teacher, I really believe it's a parent's responsibility to raise them. And so when I start talking about things that maybe I feel like the parents may not appreciate that I've said to their kids, I will tell the students, please go home and tell your parents we've had this discussion and let them know. And sometimes I've written notes, emails to the parents
right.
because that's their responsibility. And I'm sharing in it. Um, when I pray at the beginning of class, and I always do that, I say, thank you, Lord. I feel so blessed to be in this classroom, to be a part of their lives in this period. It's that particular period that I'm a part of their lives. But ultimately, they are the parents. I mean, the parents own them, the parents are raising them. And I always see it as I'm coming alongside, but I'm not really raising them
Right.
because I do not want to undermine what the parents are doing. And they work so hard. I think they all work really hard financially. They invest so much to bring their kids to to a Christian school, private Christian school, where you have to pay the tuition. And I owe it to them to do my best to help the kids, because that's my responsibility. So, and I believe that all the teachers are like that. So as far as feeling like we're partly raising them, well, we're teaching them life skills. We're not trying to enable them if they're constantly coming to school and not doing their homework at home, or not doing a good job, or being really messy in their work, or even in the way their organization. Those are life skills, but it starts from the home first, right? We're only coming alongside to help out. So we're not trying to undo or, change it. That's my attitude about it. I don't know if I'm answering that
No,
question.
you are, and I think you and I
So,
both know that the impact you've had. You mentioned George earlier. To this day, he still mentions your name. You
as you
know,
mentioned, how is to pinch
yeah.
him?
I mean, he still mentions your name. And obviously, Uncle Adrian. So whether it's viewed as raising or not, you guys are impacted in such a heavy way. For George to remember you 30 something years later, but
Well, he was 16. He was quite a rascal.
yeah.
And if he's listening, you were a rascal. He complained that I sent him, we could do this back then. Sent him out to stand at the wall because they were misbehaving. That fence wall, the wooden, would send him out there for a little while. He claims I sent him out there on his birthday.
Well, if he did, he probably deserved it.
Exactly. That's
So
what I say.
teaching today versus back then, I think it's hard. I would think it's harder. I'm not talking about family dynamics. I'm just talking about attention spans,
Mm-hmm.
technology.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a grown man and I struggle with attention spans myself. So I can't even imagine teaching today versus 20 years ago. And I know in your school they don't allow electronic devices in the
Oh
classroom.
no, they all have laptops.
Besides, okay, but even that
They have laptops. They have phones. They have the Apple Watch. They have
in the classroom.
AirPods. No, I'm saying most of them have that. You can tell them to put it away.
Oh, I see. So, yeah.
Yeah. But my class, the curriculum is online. So we don't have a textbook. So we have to use, so that can get annoying
So they
because
so they don't even
you
know
have
what
to,
paper is. Do they know what paper?
no, it's a punishment if I say, I'm going to make it, close that laptop and I'm going to hand you a printout.
Wow.
That's a
Who would have
punishment.
thought paper would be? I made a statement the other day. I said, in the future, if you have a paper book, if you have a gasoline combustion engine vehicle, so if you have paper books, you have a gas powered vehicle, you're gonna be part of the elite, wealthy, rich people because in the future nobody will have those things.
Mm,
But so paper is a punishment now for these kids. Is that
yeah.
what you say?
And it's a punishment for me because I can't read their handwriting.
So how do they sign
What
their?
in the
Do
world?
do kids still sign in 2025? Do they still sign documents?
Oh, I suppose so. What do you mean?
How do you know it's them doing the like? Is it? I don't understand. See, I'm
Oh,
old.
well, that's just for my class. And the other classes, they're writing. And we do have, like, when they take a quiz, or they have to handwrite. So I
What do
see
they
it.
write though? Because do they even teach cursive today?
Oh no, many of them just print. They don't do cursive.
So we could forge signatures like because that's why cursive was invented, right? So we can.
I don't know.
Okay, so you teach. Okay, now, so attention spans. You don't find it. Do you ever feel that it's getting harder to
Oh
teach these
yeah,
kids?
I've told them, and this is a long-term sub class that I'm doing, and I love them.
No,
You know,
what is long term sub?
well, I was, subbing is like, because I'm retired. They can send a note out. Oh, we need somebody for second period, or teacher's out. Can you come in for the day? So okay. But this, the reason it's called long term, because I've been doing this since no middle of October, I think, and I'm teaching health. And they have a block schedule, so it's red or white. Red is the even, no, odd numbers. And so I teach at every other, it's block schedule, an hour and 10 minutes. So you teach that every other day. So I've been doing that since middle of October. So that's why it's called long term, because I've been teaching
Okay.
all these, yeah. So, but these kids, they're the same ones um, that I said recently. I felt like, students last week, I felt like I was talking at you, and I didn't like that. I want to talk to you. They looked at me. Of course, they have their laptops, they have to be doing the work. So when they're not engaged and they're supposed to be, they have the program where you can look at their screens and see what they're at. And I said, okay, I feel like I'm talking at you again. And they'll stop and they look at me. When I said that to them, they knew exactly what I meant and they agreed with me. And I think they appreciated knowing that I knew the difference and that they felt the difference too. So if they don't want me to just talk at them, then they need to listen, right? That's the way it
So what are we teaching these kids today when they graduate? I'm not. I don't want to center just on your school, but if you was to broadly, like, what are we teaching our kids today? Like when they graduate, well, we can say Seattle Christian for we can use as an, but what are we teaching them when they graduate? What are we sending them into the world with? What do they have in their toolbox? Would you say?
Well, first of all, as far as education, I think our school is very equipped with that. We have a double accreditation with ACSI, Association of Christian School International, and the state. So, and we have a good curriculum. I have to say that. So academically, they're going to be well prepared if they're doing the work and not, at the bottom end or in their D's. But we usually don't um, let them. They have to, if they have any low grades, they have to do what's called a working lunch,
Mm.
and they have to do that. So, but I would say academically, I would say they're pretty strong. They are they learn how to write. When I say write, they learn how to write essays. That's a strength at our school. That they say when they go to colleges, a lot of students don't know how to do that. They don't know how to write an essay. And also, I would say all we're doing is teaching them, giving them the tools and teaching them skills. So, what do they graduate with? Those skills, those tools. But it's not just for a profession; it's for them to impact the world as Christians. So we're not just sending them out to become, professional people and
Mhm.
become, go make your money now.
Corporate
Yeah.
employees.
So we want them to go out to impact the world, if it is, wherever it may be, you know, businesses,
I can't help
medical
but go back
field.
to the A B. What was it? What was it? What you said in the beginning? A. You have the A's.
Oh,
Remember,
yes.
I can't help but think about that.
Yeah. And at Seattle Christian, or I'm sure most schools like this, there's no such thing.
Right, right.
Everybody, you know, God, God has made you who you are, and you maximize that, whatever
Because you
that
know
is.
Mike Rowe, right? You ever heard of Mike Rowe?
Yeah.
Dirty
Yeah.
Jobs. He mentioned something, and the number went down. I know 2 years ago he said there were 10 million jobs available that nobody wanted to apply for because he does these surveys, right? Research, and there's 10 million jobs
Here in
in the United States
what?
that nobody wants to work for because it's not a job that requires a 4 year college degree,
Hmm.
which means there are jobs that people don't want to do, like plumbing or electricians or construction or anything blue collar. Um, he said the alarming number, and this is 2 years ago, he said the alarming number is that there were 7 million men that were unemployed that weren't even looking for jobs
Wow.
because of the type of jobs that were available. And the number went down. I think last I watched a podcast where he said that it actually went down to where now there's like I think 5 or 6 million jobs still needing to be filled, and they were in the trades, not necessarily the education 4 year requirements. He says, but why would someone go to 4 years of college, have a $200,000 loan,
Mm-hmm.
and spend the rest of their life paying back that
Yeah.
loan and not even getting a job?
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I think the question I was asking, well, if we're sending our kids, like, are they going to be
Well,
in,
they don't all have to go to college.
yeah,
I think there is also now, more so now, just the encouragement. And there's a lot of kids who don't necessarily want to go to college and they're not that traditional type of student. So they do want a job, but whether they go to the military or they go to a trade school, you know, I think I encourage that. I used to always say, "Oh, you got to go to
that's how I
college."
was raised. I
Yeah,
felt like
but no,
I
yeah,
was a disappointment because I didn't finish college, right? That's
yeah.
what I felt like. But I wrote, you talk about essays, right? You talk about essays with Seattle Christian. So, um, I'm exposing myself here, but so I write articles on my Twitter account. So I have, you do regular posts, I do live streams, I do podcasts, but there's a section where you can do articles and people can read your articles. Well, I've
Hmm.
written 1 out of 10. 9 out of 10 were done through like a chat GPT.
Well,
But I put in the prompts and the subject,
well,
and I
that's
said,
what they're doing now.
yeah. I said, well, technically it's not chat GPT, so let me be clear, it's Grok, which is Elon's version of it.
Oh, okay.
They're great articles,
Yeah.
amazing articles, and it's got my name on it. So,
Wow.
but my,
Well,
kids are doing that today, right?
yeah. But I've heard conversations among teachers when they read papers, and you can, and
It's
if
getting
I've
better,
read,
I think.
well, but you can tell more or less.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not the student.
Do you think it's headed to a point where they won't be able to figure it out?
I don't know. I hope not. I don't know. Hope not.
If you read my articles, you'll be like, that is not my nephew. That is not him. But they're good articles, and I don't pretend to say that I wrote them, but I have these articles to explain certain subjects that I find important. But I do think there are. I think Em was accused of using ChatGPT in one of her papers.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow. I heard a teacher say the other day that they think AI even lies just to accommodate. I said, "What?"
Well, there is a
So,
self-preservation mode in ChatGPT. So one of the tests they ran was basically, for lack of a better word, like destroy yourself.
mm,
That was one of the prompts, and so ChatGPT has a self-preservation mechanism where it won't be able to do that.
oh,
So if that's in the language, just in what they call the LLM, which is a language they're learning, it's called, I think, LLM, language learning model, where it's not even capable of writing itself out of the picture.
mm,
So what does that mean when it comes to the future?
yeah, it's scary.
So articles, I think with these, so if you're Seattle, the essays are their strong point. I wonder five
If
years
it's
from
going to be like that, yeah,
yeah,
I don't
five
know.
years from now, if kids, like right now, I don't know, like,
I don't know. I feel like, and it may change, that our students are, have a lot of strong convictions, a lot of very principled, that they would want to have that expressed and not have something, if I'll take that back. So if it's something that's kind of, I don't know if I want to use the word generic, but where they're not expressing their own principles or their own values. If maybe they had to write a paper on some character, something well-known character, maybe they might use that AI. But I think when it comes to writing um, essays that's got a prompt where they have to defend something, I think they would want to do it themselves. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know. They might depend on it some, say, okay, I'm not sure, the research on this, the background, but I would say backbone of it all, I think it would be them. It might change,
do
push
teachers,
comes to shove, maybe that would happen.
what about teachers? Do they still write lesson plans in 2025?
As far as I know,
So can
Why not?
ChatGPT write out a lesson plan?
Probably eventually, but I don't know.
You
It's
haven't.
kind of scary. No, I do my own.
How many teachers do we have in our family? I've lost count. If you was even though if they don't teach anymore, but like if you used to count, I counted like 14.
Really? Oh.
But you know how we exaggerate. So so
I don't know. I
okay.
never really thought
So
about it.
mom, dad,
Yeah.
you. Okay, wait, mom, dad, you, Uncle Adrian, Terry. Did
Um,
Rachel teach? I think she
uh,
did for a little while.
then who else?
Uh, we gotta have more people then, because how do I go from 6 to 14?
I don't know.
Alicia.
Oh.
Oh, sorry, Alicia. This is like great. I go. Okay, so 7.
I never counted, so I have no idea.
Did Joy and Freddie
Oh,
ever?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that's 9. Wait, I'm getting better. 7, 8, 9. That's good enough. I was pretty close. There
Well,
has to be a couple more.
I'd have to really.
He he
Your
taught.
dad.
Oh my! I counted my dad already. 9. I'm like 5 away to make sure I'm accurate. Is that it? Uncle Terry must have taught something. No, no. Did Carrie ever teach?
Gary? I don't think so.
Technically, Chris did teach. I just don't know the accreditation. Accredit. What do you call it? Accreditation?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't do well in school.
Accredited or being licensed as a teacher.
Okay, we'll give him
Certified?
honorary. We'll give him honorary to 10.
I don't know.
Uncle Pat taught, right?
I don't
He was a
know.
coach.
I don't think so. He was a coach.
Yeah, that's teaching.
But you're talking about in the classroom teacher.
I didn't say that in the beginning though.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Like the passion of teaching.
Oh. Then that would be everybody, starting with my mom. She was the best teacher.
Can we talk about her? Oh yeah, Stacy. Wait, what was she teach?
Stacy? Oh, yes. Yes. Sorry, Stacy.
We're so sorry, family. It's late,
Definitely.
and I still have to eat some more salmon. Oh, okay. So
Well, there might be more people then. Please, Stacy.
wait, you say your mom, but you're talking about grandma.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I want to go down this path.
We don't have to. So,
What time is it?
are we ready for rapid fire?
Maybe.
One more question, and then I have so many questions. I have it written down, believe it or not.
You can ask those questions, but
No, we'll do a part 2. So for people that don't know, my Auntie Linda is a very fine educator. She did not want to do this today because she did not want to be blindsided. She still does it, but I don't worry, family. We're gonna get better at this. But here's what I'll say. Has there ever been a student that you don't have to name names, but like they came back to you 20 years later or for 10 years and tell you, hey, thank you. All those years.
Yeah, many.
How many?
Many students. I can't count them. I don't know.
How many students have you taught in your lifetime?
I don't even know. But if you say just at Seattle Christian, an average of 100 students a year, and I taught there 28 years.
Calculate that so I do the math. How many students a year?
About 100. 7th and 8th. So the 7th graders became 8th graders. You keep going. About an average of 100 students. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's less. But so that is a lot. No, I've had students even to come back to me, and one student I'll never forget. I can say his name. And he would say, "Thank you, Mrs. Gentry, for teaching me. I know I was a jerk. That's the word he used. When I was your student."
Do I know this person?
No.
Oh.
This was here.
Oh, okay.
I know I was a jerk when I was your student. I said, well, he goes, no, I was. I know I was. Thank you. I've had many students come back and say that. Usually what I say to them, when I see you, if I hear your name and I have a warm feeling you know I have good memories. But I have yet to have that, oh no, it's not him. No, it's not her. There's always good feelings. But no, I've had many students to come back and say thank you. And then sometimes I forget, well, what did I do? What did I say? So it's
I
fun.
can't say the name, but when mom passed away, one of her students came to the funeral. I don't remember
Oh.
the student, but I remember it came up to me and just started weeping
Mm,
and said how much mom impacted him,
mm,
just bawling, and said, I don't know if he told me thank you, but like I don't know why he would tell me thank you, but it's just my mom.
wow.
You just convicted me. Let me just say this real quick. To Mrs. Watson, I'm sorry for the way I treated you, but
Is
I
it
did not.
confession? Is
I
this a
did. Yeah,
confession?
yeah. But
It's being recorded.
I didn't cheat on the test. I was really that smart and that gifted. I just want to put that out there. I was just so smart. I finished the test early. She thought I cheated, but I want to tell her sorry that I don't know if she's still alive. But yeah, I finished the test early, and she thought I cheated. She was like,
Wow.
Where's your answers? Where did you cheat?" I'm like, "No, I didn't." How many did she? How did you guys do the math?
Well, I don't know. That's too many.
I think that's too low.
No, I think that's,
That's just the students, right?
oh yeah.
In your class.
Well, in middle school, yeah, I taught them all. Some classes may not have been. I mean, a total of 100. Some there were more. I had three,
Yeah.
four classes, so it could have been more. It could have been less. So I don't know.
I think it could have been more. So we'll say 3,000. You know where I come from, so we'll say 3,000. And that's just Seattle Christian.
Yeah, that's just at Seattle Christian.
We're not talking about all the other places.
10 years. What in Hawaii? I don't know how many there. I have never tried to count how many students. And I always say, "Oh Lord, help me remember." I might remember their names, but they're usually pretty good. And I'm saying here mainly because this is where we live. Oh hi, Mrs. Gentry. I'm so and so. Thank you for saying your name. Well, there's only there's many of us, and just this one of you. That's why we know you. But yeah, so no, it's been a blessing. I don't know. There was one student that we really struggled through the whole year, but he didn't just struggle with me, he struggled with everybody. And ultimately, I think he struggled with himself. But at the ending of the year, I wrote him an email and I said, I'm really sorry things were the way they were. And I was just trying to make things right. I didn't want to end on a bad note. And I don't know where he's at today. So that's the sad. I'm not saying he's a bad person, but he really struggled. He really had some struggles. I'd say he was probably an angry person all the time. And he was one student that we're afraid to turn our back, you know. Physically he could do something. But that was very rare to have a student like that. But I remember I felt much better after I sent him that email. Never responded, but I think he knew. I was saying, I'm sorry things were. Maybe I could have done some things better, said some things better, but I want him to know that I did care, that I was sorry. And that gave me peace and it made me feel better. I think about him sometimes and I pray for him. So, yeah. But what matters the most in teaching is, to me, anybody that really teaches, truly teaching, are teaching, you have to really care about the kids. Yeah, you might really like the subject, but you have to really care about the kids. You're either going to love them or you're going to end up, they're the biggest pain, because you're just trying to get through your lessons. But I have to say, I really, truly care. When I stand there in front of the class, even today, I mean, I did this when I was teaching full time. I thank God and I want the kids to hear how blessed I am to be a part of their lives in that period. And then a few minutes later, I might be a little annoyed with them, but no. So I'm just really thankful. So while teaching, but nobody told me when I became a teacher that we had all this paperwork to do and all this grading. I would complain about that. Nobody told us that. You thought you were going to just get in front of the class and teach and do stuff with them. No, it's a ton of paperwork too. But yeah, but the blessing is getting to know these students and talking with them and caring about them. Yeah.
I can tell you with a 99.9% level of certainty that all 3,000 of those students will know your name. They will remember your name for life. Because I remember Mrs. Nora, Mrs. Greenhouse, Mrs. Tripp, Mrs. Watson, Mrs. Stone, Mr. Petty,
Oh,
Mrs. Floyd, Mr. Birchfield. He spanked me with a wooden paddle in Greenville, South Carolina,
wow.
and I deserved it. So I know that all these students will remember your name.
Yeah. You know what I like? And I've told Terry this, Uncle Terry. I like it when I'm walking through the hallway and the students say, Mrs. Gentry. I love that tone. They don't just say, Hi, Mrs. Gentry. I mean, I don't even have to say hi to them
Did they ever
walking through the
tell you
hallway.
you look the same? Did they ever tell you that? Because that's what I tell you. Because every time you come over here, I say, wow, I tell Em, she looks the
There's some,
same.
oh
She
no,
doesn't
there's some
change.
funny things in class. I'm seriously teaching. And, when students, I'll say, if you have a question, raise your hand. But wait, not right now. So this one student raised their hand, and I finally said, okay, yes. Did you color your hair?
Oh, is that what they say?
And we're learning science. Did you color your hair, Mrs. Gentry? I don't remember what I said. I probably said something funny.
Well, I think it's special that you have 3,200 students that will remember it. My
Well,
number
I
just
don't know
went up.
about that number.
It's gonna keep going up because that's the fashion. That's we gotta confuse the doubters.
It is. You know what's a real blessing to see students come back and see like what they're doing now. They're like in their 20s. It's a blessing to see it. Wow. I said, wow. So really cool to see that.
Okay, so we'll close out with the fact
The
that you
rest.
can't retire.
Well, I still say I'm retired. I don't know why people say, well, you're not. I mean, like I'm not there full time. So I feel like I just can come and go if I decide I don't want to go in, but I'm going to finish this long-term sub, but it's not like I have to be there.
So I know you love the kids and you're passionate, but do you ever feel tempted to like mess up what the other teacher has been doing? Just kind of throw a little wrench in the mix,
What do you mean?
like just totally like play pranks on it because you're not committed,
Oh,
right? You can
pranks
just
were played on me
oh okay.
all the time.
Because you're a hired gun. You're not a full time. You're like a sub, but you're like a
Oh,
sniper.
you mean now?
Yeah, you can just come in and just snipe a couple of. No, I mean, that's not the right word. That's a
That's
bad
not
word.
a good word.
But you know what I mean. You come in and just kind of stir things up, and you're gone. You're out of there, right? You don't ever feel tempted to mess
Oh,
with
I
them.
probably have. I've gone to the door, make faces at the teacher and then walk away. Kids can't see you. You're making faces at them.
Last question, and we'll rapid fire. So now that you're not focused heavy on science and you have multiple subjects, is there something that you see now that is wow? I wonder if I had taught that instead, or are there things that are
Bible.
Bible?
Love subbing for Bible.
Is it challenging or is it just fun? Is it both? What is it? What is it about the Bible?
Challenging and fun, but you're also talking to the students, to their heart, to their minds. That's what I love about it the most.
When you say Bible at Seattle Christian, so is it? What are you guys teaching them in this Bible that you're? What are you guys teaching them?
Well, there's different Bible classes.
Right,
So this one class,
like history or
well, they can have a historical, whatever. I don't know, but I haven't taught any lessons. So, but like Keith, I they do a lot of journaling, and I did not. I knew that they had an assignment.
Writing.
Oh, they have
Oh,
to.
hallelujah.
They write.
Jesus is Lord. Yes.
So they read. So they read a chapter or so many verses, and then they have to journal. And I always, when I'm subbing, I throw this in. I said, okay, I just want you to know when you're done, I'm going to call on you to tell me what you got out of this. Or you can just tell me, you can just raise your hand and tell me what kind of just stood out to you. And sometimes the students would do that. Other times I have to call on them. Or sometimes I'll say, okay, everybody has to say one quick thing. And they're not supposed to take that long with journaling. And I always tell Keith, okay, Keith, I took a little extra time. But I love doing that. Love hearing what they're going to say about journaling. And sometimes, some of the information, what they've journaled, they're hard things to read. And they tell me, I don't like this. I think this was mean. Yeah, I agree too. Or
especially
why?
certain books of the Bible.
Yeah.
Some of them are mean stuff.
But it's been really good to hear the kids what they say.
And I think you get an idea if they're actually learning something based on, or they hear. I think our kids are journaling. Well, sometimes they journal, and Em will tell them, read this, and then just journal. What does God put in your heart? And they'll draw or they'll write.
Yeah.
I think Gideon's more of a drawer. I think Gideon draws pictures. So, but they journal.
Well, that is good.
Yeah.
I think that's the way they can express themselves.
Yeah, that's the way he, translates. Right.
Is this a rapid fire? Because I don't know how long we've been on.
Too long.
I know.
Kidding. So Wesley Huff. Wesley Huff, is he in your repertoire? He's, for lack of a better word, he's apologist, I think they call him. He knows the Bible like no other. He's one of the most widely recognized Bible scholars.
What's his name?
Wesley Huff. As soon as the cameras go, I'll give it to you. But he teaches and he debates. He comes from the, I think, apologetics worldview, but he studies the original text, the actual.
Wow.
He knows
That's probably why I don't know him.
He knows how to read it.
Wow.
He has copies of every single text.
Is he an American?
Canadian.
What? Even more so.
But he'd be a good resource to look up and share with your students, especially if Bible's your powerful guy. God brought him into this world for a reason, for what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We good? Okay, rapid fire here. 10 questions. First question. I can't ask you the normal question because I'll just ask. I always ask this question: why did you do this podcast today? Even though you didn't want to do it, why did you do this podcast today?
Well, mainly because you keep asking.
Yeah, because
I wanted you to stop asking me.
She's the first one that actually said that, and I'm glad you're honest because everybody says, "Oh, because you're a great guy." No, I want to hear why did you really? Okay.
No, and I would say I think you're really good at what you do. I wasn't sure, like others, you probably would love to have had a list of the questions. Maybe I would have done a better job in answering them. But the other part is I did and still do love teaching. So in that context, when you said you want, I said I would love to just sit and have a conversation because I love it. I mean, I probably say a lot and still talk about it, but that would be probably those two. Mainly because I wanted you to stop asking me.
So the reason why I asked you, because I know, me and we're talking, I said, because I struggle, and I'll be very honest, I struggle not doing it live because I need the pressure. I gotta have the pressure to be comfortable. I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable. I don't like this feeling. You know how you talk about I don't like that feeling of talking at kids. I feel like I'm talking at you.
Oh.
I don't mean like that, but you know what I mean? Like, but I said, you know what? This is not about me being comfortable. So my point is that I know that there's so many things in your life that I know that people need to see and hear. And what I said in the beginning, can you imagine when our kids are old and I'm gone? Wow, they actually talked about this, and wow, this is who Auntie Linda was, or Grandma was like, or my great, I mean, even your great grandkids were like, wow, I never met, her, but wow, this is who she was. So that's why.
Well, I have to say, and along the line what you said, this is kind of getting on the side. I love students. I love them for who they are. I have felt bad at times when the class leaves. I didn't even say hi to her. I didn't even go up to her desk. I mean, I feel bad. Like, okay, the next time we have class, I'm gonna. Oh, if I see her in the hallway, I'm gonna make sure I say hi. And it's usually those quiet students who just do their work. So I feel bad about that. But the other thing I wanted to say is that I feel it's very important that the kids feel respected and valued. Really important to me. I remember a few years ago, many years ago, a teacher, this is at Redemption, got into an argument with a student, and the teacher said, "You think you had a rough life? You don't know it. I had a rough life. You didn't." And that student got really upset. And I thought, and I understood where this teacher was coming from because he was speaking out of his hurt. So was that student. And to me, that wasn't valuing that student. Not that you feel sorry for them, you have to have empathy. And that student, I think, went away not feeling understood or like, I'm wrong. He's telling me I'm wrong. So I'll always remember that. That's sad. And so for health, one of the things we were learning is about stress, how to handle stress. So I said to them one day, I said, okay, students, I want to make it clear to you. I know you have stress. Don't let anybody tell you you don't have stress. I know you do. I can't imagine being a teenager right now. You guys have a lot of stress, but you can help in that area. And of course, we have the Lord. And so, but I wanted them to know I understand because they'll keep saying, we have a lot of stress, Mrs. Gentry. I said, okay, don't talk about schoolwork. That's just the way it is. You're gonna have to deal with that. That's a good stress anyway, you know. But I want them to know that I appreciate them, I respect them. I want them to respect me back. I don't expect it necessarily because of where many of them are at. But I do believe and I really want them to know that I respect them and I value them. And I think that's why some students really like me. I love talking with them, not just, in the class when we're supposed to be learning, but I love getting to know them, talking to them. But on along the line of respect, I would say that's something that Uncle Terry and I did with our own two children, John and Carrie. We respected them and valued them from when they were little. We never looked down at you. You're just a kid. You don't know what. No, we valued every part of their life every year, and we respected them in each of those stages of their life. I think that's really important. Until today, if there's anything I appreciate from our kids, is their respect. Yes, we love them and they love us, but it's that respect. It's almost like it's hard to separate that from love, but there's that deep respect that they have for us. And I think it's part of the reason, the way we raised them, because we respected them and we loved them. God gave them to us. We cared for them because God gave them. They're the greatest gift anybody could get is to have children, you know? And so that's the way I feel about students. Just respecting them and loving them. So which do you feel more? Do you feel more love or respect for the kids? That's hard to separate too. But I would say if I had to, it's going to be the respect. They're human beings, maybe little at this moment, but they are just as real. They are experiencing stress like anyone else. They're experiencing hurt. Everything they're experiencing is real, and for that time of their life or in that context of where they're at, they're all real. It's not like, Hey, you wait till you become you wait till you get a job. No, it's real now. God loves them where they're at. Maybe that's what he meant when he says he loves you where you're at. He's going to help you and bring you up and help you and bring you out of those things and help you to grow. But he loves you right where you're at. And so I'm thankful that the Lord's taught me how to love and respect every student. Sorry. Is that my 9 questions?
No, that was the first one.
Oh my goodness. Hurry,
Okay,
it's supposed to be rapid.
Okay, let's make. Okay. Oh my gosh, that was a long number one. You're the longest number one I've ever had in my life.
Did that make sense?
It did. And you know what? Because we got to go through the next 9 questions. Strawberry and peanut butter or grape and peanut butter jelly sandwich? Which one? You got to pick one.
Say that again?
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You got to pick one of the two. Grape or strawberry?
Is this a trick question?
No, this is an honest question. There's a psychology to these. Trust me.
Strawberry
Or grape. You got to pick one.
with peanut butter?
Yeah, pick one.
Probably strawberry. Grape has always been the standard. Why? Grape with peanut butter. I want strawberry.
It's a conspiracy.
Oh, guava. How about guava?
No guava. I write the questions at you, not you. What the heck? Question number 3. Your favorite recipe for poke?
I don't have one, but we eat it.
Okay. So I'll give you one. Either wasabi poke or shoyu poke.
Probably wasabi, huh? I'm asking Uncle Terry. Wasabi. Show you?
Tomorrow in the news, CNN comes out, or Fox News, all the news stations come out and they say that Costco has just filed for bankruptcy. We're shutting all the stores down effective immediately. What do?
Rush to the store. Buy all the water and toilet tissue. But they're going to have it locked, right?
I don't know. I've always wondered what are they going to do if Costco ever shuts down? I think they're going to be so sad. Question number 5. Money or logistics not an issue. Where do you guys go for a 30-day vacation? For 30 days. Money.
That's a dream. If we could.
Where would you go for 30 days?
I don't know. Are you just asking me or me and Uncle Terry?
Well, he's in the room, but the camera's on you. Is this
where
number
would
5?
we go?
Is this 5? This is question.
Where would we go? For 30 days?
Mm-hmm.
Has to be one place? Or could it be several?
You can pick several, but it has to be in the 30-day period. And
yeah. I don't know. I always wanted to go back to Holland. Mike was stationed there. And Carrie, we went and stayed with them. I loved seeing everybody on bikes. I like when we go to a country to actually be among the people. I don't want to be a tourist. I want to be among the people. See what they're doing and eat what they eat and go where they go. I mean, I think that's what we got to do in Holland. And I'd love to go back and do that again. Learn more about them.
Come back with the wooden slippers.
Oh, we have them. We have some. Don't wear them, but.
Number 6. Tomorrow, me and Uncle Terry do a recording in the studio.
You are?
Yeah. So, but we need you to play an instrument. You either gonna play drums or bass. Which one are you gonna play?
Drums. Are you shocked?
He's laughing. So.
Neither one. I had to choose, right?
Question number 7. Raw salmon or raw beef?
Raw salmon.
That was too easy. Question number 8. We're gonna get good. Okay. Question number 8. Piece of advice that you would give to young parents that just have a newborn baby. One piece of advice you would give them.
Wow. To answer that, I have to say this. When anybody, I'm going to say that for Uncle Terry and I, when you first have your hold your baby for the first time, you look at that baby and you say, there is nothing in this world you're going to ever let happen, bad things happen to your child. You're going to protect and you're going to care for that child. And you keep holding on to that child even when they're 18 and you're holding on too tight and they're struggling. You got to be able to let them go. So it's hard. So you want to love them with all your heart. You'd say you can never overlove a child, but I would say it's loving them, but also being able to let them go. Love them with all your heart, and you take care of them, but you teach them how to take care of themselves. And I think that's what we had done. We didn't. There's no real manuals to how to raise children, right? Because they're all so different, and you just go and you do as you go along. But I think you learn more about each other, husband and wives, when you have kids. And it's been wonderful. Been
Stop
good.
crying, honey.
We're different people, right? Uncle Terry's the fun one. I'm the one.
You see,
Careful. Did you wash your hands? Stop. You're gonna fall, John. That's why you have that cut in your hand, because you didn't listen. And Uncle Terry's the one, but they were having fun.
I would tell you this, Auntie. I will tell you this, that you did good. The parenting. No.
I thought you meant we're done.
We got one. We got two more. We're done. But I'm talking about Uncle Terry, because in the past 5-10 years, I feel like I've gotten to know him in so many different ways, because my perception of him, and I say this because I love him, I thought the only words he knew was, ha, yeah. And I'm like, wow. And when I found out, wow, there's a lot of things, a lot of wisdom that he carries. But anyways, that's
He's very selective of who he talks to. That's why you got to.
Well, now there's more. He's got.
No, I'm kidding.
Got paragraphs now. Okay, question number 9. Number 9, yeah. You've been blessed to be. What's the word? Someone that cares for people, or you're able to be with people in maybe the last chapters of life. Mona Parker, my mom, grandma. I'm gonna pick one because I want to hear what. If you could go back in time a little bit earlier, in the time that you came, my mom, and she wouldn't recognize you, none of us would recognize you. You would come in as a different person, but you would be able to go and visit her. What would you say to her? And you could say anything you want. What would you say to her?
I mean, if I knew that she was at her end?
You'd be like anonymous.
And she was at her end.
At her end. What would you say?
About to take her last breath, like I heard it.
Yeah.
Real. Remember,
yes.
Emily?
Yeah.
What would I say to her?
What would you say?
Oh. I don't know. It just made me think about what I said to my own mom. And we felt like she was hanging on.
Mm.
I said to her, it was hard to say. First time it was really hard to say, and after I said, Mom, it's okay to go, because we're going to be right behind
you. not too soon, though.
Well, in the context of eternity.
Right, true.
So what would I say to your mom? And I knew her. And I knew her all those, or are you saying I went to see her as a stranger?
Mm-hmm.
As a stranger?
You had an opportunity to just whisper something to her or say something to her. What would you say?
As a stranger. I'm not sure if I'm a stranger or I've known her.
Did I frame the question?
Okay. Right? So if I've known...
Like, the point of the question was like, I would like to go back and be able to tell my mom certain things that I feel like I wish I could have said before. Now. And so that's the context of the question, is, it's a lot of times we feel like, I feel like I wish I could have said something different or better. I would like to be able to go back to my grandpa Lopez and tell him, thank you for the ukuleles.
Mm-hmm.
Or tell him, Grandpa, thank you for blessing these kids. You're doing the right thing. I would love to be able to go back. And it's not a regret thing. It's more like, I wish I could go back and just bless somebody and say, hey, you made a really good decision by buying your grandson's ukuleles today. Because 20 years from now, your grandson's going to play guitar for his brother in the hospital.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the frame of the question. Is that it's not so much of a regret that I always draw these pictures like, wow, God, if I could have another shot at doing something, what would I do?
I think this question is for you.
Exactly,
You're
but I
trying to
wanted you
answer it.
because I wanted to hear you because
Well, it's
as
hard
a
to.
sister, that's kind of I guess how I feel as a sister. You know.
Well, I mean, it would be hard for me to for you to say that I didn't know your mom. What would I say to her as a stranger? But as a sister, I would just say to her, "Thank you,"
Mm,
because she did things. She was an amazing person. First of all, we know that.
yeah.
And she had gifts that I didn't have. She was an administrator. I'm not an administrator. Um, and she was super creative. She had laughter and joy all the time, didn't she? I'm sure there are times she was really sad, but she was just an amazing person who loved deeply, so deeply that at times spoke very strongly to people. She was loving them. So for me, and knowing all of that about her and the creativity and what an awesome cook, there's a lot of things like I would never be able to, you know, um, match that in any way. And I don't say that out of shame or regret, out of admiration,
Mm.
really, out of admiration. So I would say thank you for who you were and how you gave all of yourself. She was un- unselfish,
It was, yeah.
so unselfish. She couldn't even see herself because she was looking at everybody else, caring for people. One thing I did like about her that I wish I had, her beautiful hair. I wish I had her hair.
Yeah, that's
But
funny. Okay, last question. We're done.
I don't know if I answered that question,
You
but
did.
anyway. I thought we already did number
No, this,
9.
we're number 10.
What?
I'll multiply. I'll multiplications, whatever.
Is this still being recorded?
Yes.
This has
Okay.
been a
This is the
long.
last question. Don't listen to my auntie. She just Uncle Terry warned me before that she would give me a hard time. Um, Last question I ask everybody. The same question is, when you're gone, and you already answered it with your soon, but if you want to add to that, when you're gone, when Imake died dead, when Linda Gentry is gone, and you're in your chariot in the sky, what is your desire for the next generation? When you're gone, what is your desire for the next generation?
For them to stand and impact this world.
To scan and impact?
No, stand.
Stand.
They have all the tools, have all the talent. I don't know that students, young people,
Mm-hmm.
are not lacking. If they are, they have chosen to be lacking. They have everything they need to be the leaders, the speakers to this world, the doers. They have everything that God could ever bless them with. And I would expect that of them. And that's what I pray that they would. I don't know if that's an answer, but that's what I would expect for them to impact the world. They can do it. God wants to use them. Yeah, He's going to use us, the older folks, but they're the ones that's going to make that huge difference.
I always tell people, while you're here, make an impact. Right? In John 14:12, Jesus, I gotta go, but if you believe in me, you're gonna do these things that I've done, and even far greater will you do in my name. So I don't think anything in the scripture says hurry up and get to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Like while you're here, make an
Mm-hmm.
impact. So
But I do want to say, when I say stand up, they're young people who don't have they're it's not their comfort zone to be speakers, but they're super good at doing other things. So whatever talent God has given them, whatever abilities, tools, I expect them to use it with all their might, and I believe they will. I really do believe they will. I don't know how many, but I think there'll be a lot. I expect it from all our nieces and nephews and grandchildren, and to whom God has given much, much is required. They've been given a lot.
That's perfect right there. I stand in agreement and amen. I will tell you, and if always the cameras go off, I'll say thank you again, but thank you. This is, in case you haven't noticed, fam, this is my Auntie Linda. She is a history maker. She's a generational impacting person. She's probably affected 12,000 people in her lifetime.
Okay, you.
See, they're laughing at me.
Okay, this.
No, hold on.
There
hold
is
on.
some. I'm not agreeing with that. I'm not saying that's the wrong number.
Why so?
I don't know. I can't believe.
Okay. See, everybody's laughing at me, but they don't know that in the Bible, when they said Jesus fed the 5,000, he didn't feed 5,000. He fed minimum at least 10,000. Because if you read the scripture, it says men.
Yeah.
They didn't count the women and children. When you teach or affected 2,800 students, I'm not just counting the students. I'm talking about the moms and the dads. And when his kids went home, you affected the families too.
Well, I want to say there are many parents that I've gotten to know and really appreciate, and it's because of them that they have the kids, that I had the students that I taught. It's because of the parents.
My number still stands. Family, we're going to end it. I win. Thank you for watching. This is Glow Sessions Podcast, and we just want to thank you for spending time with us today. Just as a reminder, Archon mounts, if you guys need tripods, go to archon.com, use our promo code Hawaii, you get 20% off your entire order. We just enjoyed you guys hanging out. Thank you for your time, your heart, support, your data, all the good stuff. And most importantly, thank you for your time above everything else. As I always say, love you guys. God bless you guys. Aloha and mahalo. Yes, sir. Chihu.